Welcome back to the kitchen, Budget Bakers. Today we are making macaroons, not to be confused with macarons. Every fall I make this recipe, and I remember just a quick little story. When I first made this recipe, the cookies themselves are not lookers. They're kind of like little mounds of cookie. So when I first made it, I remember my husband was like, "Oh, what is that?" Because of the way that they looked. And then he ate one and they have become his favorite. Okay. So like I said, every fall I make these cookies. They do cost less than $10 to make, about $9.85. But if you can get your chocolate chips and your shredded coconut on sale, you could easily cut the cost down by several dollars. So this could easily be a $5 or $6 recipe, but it makes at least 2 dozen. So you get a good amount out of it. All right. So let's get started with Deanna's super easy yet delicious macaroons. Okay. So the base of macaroons is coconut. So we've got approximately 5 1/3 cup of coconut here. So what I've done is I have a 4-cup glass Pyrex and I filled it to the brim, a little overflowing, and that'll give us the amount that we need. So let's go ahead and pour this carefully into our medium to large sized bowl. Okay. Then you might get these little clumps in here. Usually I like to eat them if I'm being honest, but I won't. I'll spare you today. All right. Now we are going to add 1 can of sweetened condensed milk. Be very careful. So you want to make sure you get every bit of the sweetened condensed milk out of this container. So we definitely need a spatula for that. So let's just go ahead and dump it out. And then you're going to come in with the spatula and scrape the sides. Otherwise, you will leave way too much in the can if you don't use a spatula to get it out. It'll just stick in there and like never come out. And you can hold it like this for 2 years and it still won't come out. All right, so we use a spatula. There we go. We get it all out. Now, I'm not going to use the spatula to stir the macaroons because I prefer a fork. All right, so we are going to use extract. Now, the reason that I'm not specifying extract is because you can choose to create a flavor that you like. I'm using butter vanilla. You can use regular vanilla. You can use almond, which I was going to use, but I couldn't remember if my family liked them best when I used the almond extract, so I skipped that. This is actually an emulsion, so we don't need quite as much. So I'm just going to put in a little capful there of my butter vanilla emulsion. But you can use 2 teaspoons of regular extract in this recipe. Then what we're going to do is we're just going to start to stir it all together. And you're going to get a very sticky mixture in the end. Okay? Now, I am actually going to add my chocolate chips to this mixture. You don't have to do that. You can actually omit the chocolate chips if you wanted to, and then dip them in chocolate after they're baked and let the chocolate cool. And that'll kind of give you the illusion of a Mounds bar. But I like to put the chocolate chips in. I'm using regular size chocolate chips today. You can also use the minis. And if I'm being honest, I would have preferred to use the minis, but I didn't have enough minis today, which is rare. Usually I have plenty of everything, but I did just use them not too long ago. So grocery day is coming up this week on Tuesday. So I will get more for sure. All right. So it takes a little bit of arm power to get this mixed together. Nothing too crazy, but you don't need to use a mixer. You can just use a fork, again, because that's my preference. Forks are pretty sturdy and they do a good job, in my opinion. So that's why I use them. So you do want to make sure that you're turning it up from the bottom here, because you will have some coconut at the bottom that hasn't been mixed with the sweetened condensed milk. And you want to make sure that you get it all mixed in because we want to use every bit of this for our cookies, okay? So once you do that and you get all the loose coconut mixed in, and by the way, this is sweetened coconut, okay? It is sweetened. Then at that point, which is now for me, I've made a little mess. I have 1 cup of chocolate chips here that I am going to pour in, and then I'm going to fold them in. Don't leave any in the cup. So this is a great recipe to make with kids. They can do the pouring and the mixing. It is a great family recipe. And I have made this with my daughter before. Actually, I made this with my son when he was little too. He's an adult now, but my daughter is not yet an adult. And she does enjoy baking with me from time to time. I wish she loved it as much as me, but she loves to be my taste tester. All right, so now one way that you can create a holiday-specific recipe with this recipe is rather than using chocolate chips, or in addition to chocolate chips, maybe a 1/2 cup of chocolate chips, 1/2 cup M&Ms. You could get the red and green M&Ms for Christmas, or you could just put the whole cup of M&Ms in there. You can do the mini M&Ms, the regular sized M&Ms, and you can do that for any holiday. I know around Easter time, they also come out with the colored pastel M&Ms, so you can use those. All right, so this is all mixed pretty well. So we're gonna get going here. Okay, you can just use a regular tablespoon. I like to use my medium-sized ice cream scoop when I'm making cookies. I like to keep all my cookies the same size so that they cook at the same rate. Now, I've preheated my oven to 350 degrees. And now, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna fill up my scoop, pretty good size here, and I'm gonna just start scooping away. So you should get at least 2 dozen cookies out of this. The smaller you make the cookies, of course, the more you're going to get. So you could get more than 2 dozen. So it's still an economical recipe for sure. All right, so I am going to just stand here in my own little world where I love to be and scoop away. All right, so I have scooped 14 on this tray. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare another tray, another cookie sheet with a sheet of parchment paper, and I am going to put 2 into the oven at the same time. Clearly, I am going to get more than 2 dozen recipes out of this. More than 2 dozen cookies out of this. Let me get my other tray. All right, here we are. I've got tray number 2, number dos, and I'm gonna go ahead and get my cookies scooped onto this tray. So again, I got 14 cookies scooped out here. I have one that's a little on the smaller side. Let me just add just a little bit more to this guy. There we go. And I'm gonna pop these in the oven. They're going to bake for approximately 10 to 14 minutes. So knowing my oven, I will check them after 12 minutes. And as soon as they're baked, I will be back. Halfway through the baking, I went ahead and I switched cookie trays. I took the bottom one from the bottom, put it on the top, took the top, put it on the bottom, turned them around, and I let them finish baking like that. And I also scooped 1 more tray of cookies. So really, in reality, this recipe, although it costs just under $10 to make, makes 3 to 4 dozen cookies. So it's still a very economical recipe. All right, so I've got about 3 minutes left. As soon as those are done, I'll show them to you and we'll have a taste. Okay, baker friends, so my macaroons baked for 12 minutes and they're still warm, but I have put my third batch in the oven. But I am going to go ahead and have a taste. They're good. Let me show you up close what these look like. Because like I said, they're not lookers. They're like little mounds of goodness. I wonder if that's how the cookie bar mounds got its name, or the candy bar mounds got its name. Mounds of goodness. Because they really are. So these do have to completely cool in order to be removed properly from the cookie sheet. I would say, usually if something has to cool completely, you give it 20 minutes. So I would say, check them after 10, see how cool they are. If they're still warm, leave them for another 5, and then by the 20-minute mark, they should be good, and you can remove them from the pan. I would say too, since this recipe makes so many, this is a great recipe to make around the holidays and give as gifts. If you just want to bake it on the weekend sometime, bake it up. You could freeze the cookies once they've cooled. You can also share them with your neighbors, friends, coworkers, whatever the case may be. Everyone will love you for it. Okay, well, thank you, friends, for being here with me today. If you like this video, I ask that you give it a thumbs up, that you like it, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Subscribing and liking is a free way to support your creators. And if you really love me and you really love my recipes and my videos, you could click the little bell and YouTube will notify you every time I put up something new. All right, well, thanks again for being here. Fall is in the air. Happy baking.